So Zara, take it away. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. Hang on, I'm just trying to share my screen. If I did it wrong, somebody yell at me in chat, but I think you guys can see me.
Yep.
Yeah, all
Looks
right,
good.
perfect. Okay, so my name is Zahra Cruzan, and I am the founder of Brand Author. We're a boutique branding agency, and we specialize in supporting organizations to help establish and optimize their brand equity. So this can look as simple as having them use our marketing platform that creates custom customer journeys, all the way to product rollouts, product launches or brand launches, rebrands, and go-to-market strategies. But the reason that we focus on brand equity is because it's so critical to the health of your business. No matter whether you're going to grow your own brand for decades to come or you're looking to sell in a couple of years, brand equity is the name of the game. So we really do a lot of work in focusing on how to build that up. Now, typically I say that this is super casual, so interrupt me and unmute yourself whenever you want. I will tell you, I've typed myself 3 times. It's a 20-minute presentation if I leave off the last 5 slides. So I'm happy to answer questions as we go along, but I'm going to try and move a little quick. I might talk a little faster than I usually do, so slow me down if you need to. But there we go. I don't want to spend too much time talking about me. Let's get into the meat of it. So before we start talking about brand equity and creating raving fans, I think we should come to a common definition for what brand really is, because there's a lot of ways that people describe brand and define brand. It's a logo, it's messaging, it's your brand reputation, it's your customer, it's your reviews. And the answer is that it really is all of those things and more, right? It is the combined perception of what your organization is, right? And the thing about that is that your brand is an agreed upon value that's dictated by your market sector. So you don't actually control it, but you can influence it. And the way that you influence it, one of the main ways that you influence it is by creating your brand promise and then creating brand standards that support that brand promise, right? So we all want a great brand. We want to improve our brand equity, but what does that really mean and how do we accomplish it? So the way that we value brand equity is essentially your market cap. But most of us sitting in this room are not publicly traded companies. And so our options are you hire someone privately to create a valuation for you, or you can kind of eyeball it. And the way that you do that, the factors that you want to include most heavily in that is 2 main factors, your market share and your price point, right? So this is how we're building the story of value. Now, what's interesting is that the most charismatic brands not only own up to 50% of their market share, but they charge an average of 40% more than their challengers, right? And so that's really important for us to understand as we try to build our brand equity, right? Brand value. So we have these raving fans that are willing to pay our prices. So we all know that to increase market share, we focus on brand awareness and campaign spends, right? Marketing spends. But what about our price point? What if we're trying to increase on the second, on the value, right? How do we work it then? So that's what we're going to focus on today. So if you want to increase the value and have raving fans, then you need to do a few things right. Yeah, there we go. So the first thing you have to do is you have to create the right brand promise for the right people. If you don't have an agreement with those 2 things, you're in trouble. So for instance, there's a lot of people in the world that might need a personal trainer. There's a lot of people in the world who might need a personal trainer, but don't want a personal trainer. So you've got to have the right message, the right promise for the right people. Need and desire are often 2 different things. And a lot of times as makers, we kind of get stuck in, well, they need it. They might need it, but do they want it? That's the second question that we have to ask. The second thing you have to do is you clearly and effectively have to articulate your promise, your brand promise, consistently over time. That's what builds that trust. The third thing is you have to create offers and experiences that deliver on the promise. And the fourth thing is you have to capture and promote evidence that you're successfully carrying out your brand promise. And so this is where a lot of people get it a little off. We focus a lot on the brand part and the messaging and the visual side of it, and we completely forget about what comes later, right? How do we stay in integrity with that brand promise? So as you can see, it all begins with that brand promise though. Your brand promise acts as the guiding principle for all your business decisions, and it sets the tone for your company's culture, the values, and the operation. Okay, so we know that it all starts with a brand promise. So then what the heck is a brand promise? How do we make that? Well, teaching you how to make a brand promise is way more than a 15-minute slide deck. So we're just going to cover some basic principles. And the first thing that I want to talk about is that people often get guarantee and promise a little confused. So I just kind of want to break it down and explain the difference between the two. So your guarantee or your warranty is a tangible part of the offer that if you mess it up, you can get a refund for. So let's just say I buy a laptop online and the space bar is broken. I can return it and get a refund. Where a brand promise speaks more to the outcome or the transformation that a customer expects after they've used your service or products, right? So when a person buys a Nike shoe, it isn't because they deeply value rubber and textiles, right? They may buy a shoe because they need something to put on their feet, but they pay for a Nike because they become more legitimate and serious athletes when they wear Nike. It's an identity trade-off. That's what they're gaining. So essentially, if I wear the same shoe as LeBron James, I will become a better basketball player. So Nike has now become a part of my identity because it connects me to my aspirational self. Do we see how that messaging there has a purpose and it creates forward? So now I'm a fan of Nike. When you consistently uphold these brand promises throughout your identity and your messaging and your experience, that's when you start to build trust and credibility with your customer base. Pausing in between slides, so if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. All right, so we just talked about this pathway, and of course, for time's sake, we're not going to run exercises on building out your own individual brand promises for right now. We're going to focus in on the consistent articulation and the affirming offers and experiences, because that's where a lot of the dirty work gets done. That's where the hard work gets done. So why experience? Why does that matter so much? I want to read you guys some statistics that I think are going to blow your mind, because they blew my mind, and I've been doing this for a long time when I read it. The first is 42% of customers are going to pay more for a product if their experience is optimized. That right there, you're winning on factor number 2, price point. 73% of customers say that customer experience is the deciding factor when making a purchase. On average, companies that focus on customer experience have a 1.5 times higher employee satisfaction rate, 1.6% higher brand awareness, and a 1.9 times, I'm sorry, not percent, 1.6 times higher brand awareness, and a 1.9 times higher PPA, or price per average. So what's incredible about, more incredible than all of that, is that 74% of customers are likely to buy a product based on just one favorable customer experience. So if you're sitting there kind of panicking about all the logistics that people have to go through to work with you and all the experiences that exist, you just got to optimize one to get started and see a more favorable result. And so that's pretty incredible. Okay. So how do we translate this brand promise into a brand standard? So the way that I make this analogy is like this. If your brand promise is the idea of your brand, then the experience and the brand standard itself is the reality of it. So I talk the talk, do I walk the walk, right? And that's what we're checking for. And that's where the integrity of a brand comes in. And so that's why you see, like, how many of you guys could name at least 30 companies that list honesty and integrity in their core values, and, you know, they have similar, and they all sound the same, but few of them stand out amongst the rest. And that's because everybody talks the talk, but few take the time to walk the walk, right? And that's what we're looking at today. So the two main standards, the two main ways that we experience brand standards is the identity experience and then the interactive experience when we start engaging with the brand, right? So we're going to go into the identity experience today. I have some slides in the back that I've stuck in my back pocket in case we have time, which I don't think we will. to go into the interactive experience and how we approach that. But we're gonna go through and at least get through the identity experience. Okay, so a brand, we talk about visual identity. So this goes beyond, and I'm going to exit here for a second because I want you to see one that we've done so you can kind of see what it looks like in real time. So your visual identity goes beyond just your logo and your color palette. What's really important to note here is that it really does factor in the guidelines, which is usage. So it's not just about these colors, but it's how they work together. So as you can see, it really is from your messaging. You've got your tone and your voice. Are you technical? Do you use a lot of jargon? Are you silly? Are you casual? What is that tone? How is it represented? What are your messaging frameworks? What are the things that are most valuable to you as a company? What do you prioritize above everything else? It also talks about your marketing guideline. What does your marketing, what are your social media platforms that you use? What types of promotions do you use? Who do you affiliate with? Who reps your brand? And even from, so we talk about all of that, your avatars, your campaign categories, and then even down to the logo. So I want you to compare this to the typical brand board that you've seen before. And now you can start to see why some brands are able to effectively pull off a look while others just kind of DIY makeup, right? So it's not just about the logos, it's about the usage, how to use them, when to switch off to another version of it, what's appropriate and when. Looking at backgrounds, placement, clear space, misuse, what we don't do to our logo, right? All the do's and don'ts of what you do to a logo, what you don't. This is, another misuse, right? This is a very different look than what you're going for, right? This light and airy. This is very moody and dark and more traditional. What percentage we use our colors, what they mean, so that we know when we're creating marketing material, if I'm trying to evoke this feeling, which color combination should I be using for this, right? It really talks when you're designing your website. It talks about your grid line, your composition, your framework, your presets when you do photography, right? How does everything come together to create a look? It talks about, and I'm gonna get back into the presentation for you guys. Just kick me out. There we go. There we go. So how it all comes together to create that brand look. So you can see that the website and the location and the social media and the menus and the packaging all comes together to create a style that is consistent and recognizable. And I'll give you a little case study about this. So MIT did a study where they posed as two different coffee companies that were trying to get the business of the school cafeteria, right? And they took the exact same coffee, brewed it at the exact same temperature with the exact same water. Everything's exactly the same, right? The difference is on one, they put it in terrible, cheapy paper to-go containers, and they poured it in styrofoam, right? Wrote with a Sharpie. And then in the other, they did it properly, like a nice catering service with ceramic, cups and things like that. Exact same materials, exact same product, exact same process. Product is the same, only variable is packaging. And then they serve it to people who drank the coffee. Now, what we all can probably guess is that when they asked them, which one would you pay more for? Of course, they said the bougie one, right? With the ceramic, and that's a no-brainer. But what's interesting is they said, packaging aside and going just based on the flavor, which coffee was better? Hands down, the bougie coffee won. And there was absolutely no difference. And that tells us that our packaging, our experience affects our physical experience. It actually tasted better to them. It wasn't just the packaging. In their minds, it actually tasted better. It increased the quality and therefore the value just by the presentation and the packaging. And so, and we see it all the time. We see small business owners, that pour their heart and soul into an organic, gourmet, small batch, you name it. And then it's like a Nor's bottle with an inkjet printer label on it. And they don't understand why they can't sell it for what it's worth. It's because it doesn't look like it's worth organic. It doesn't look organic. And I got to get past that label if I'm going to be bothered to pick it up, right? And so often we kind of miss that cue as far as brand experience goes. But you want to create that raving fan and that excitement before they've even experienced the product. And this is where that happens. Nike is the king when it comes to that, right? And so when you look at this, you can see that clear, consistent explanation of the promise in everything that they do. They have consistent visuals. It's high impact. So they do a great job of telling their brand story. And they work through advertising diligently to consistently convey their brand promise, right? Who they are, what they stand for. And you can see it's very high impact, and you can see their photography. It's always high intensity, whether they're looking right at you, whether they're focused on what they're doing. There are rules that they follow in everything, zoom in, their topography, their messaging and how they say things. They're very in your face about what they say, very cut to the chase and efficient. They're very good about keeping that consistent messaging and look that creates a style that people identify with. But beyond that, they take it a step further. And this is what really puts them over the top, because they create exceptional offers and brand experiences on top of just the visual. So they show you who they want you to perceive them to be, but then they back it up with what they produce experience-wise. So they have an incredible website, super easy, efficient, clean, easy to use, right? They also have their navigation, their structure, their interaction. Everything is very clean and approachable. They also have an incredible unboxing experience. They also go to extreme lengths to produce extraordinary, not technically advanced shoes, where they banned from the Olympics for having an unfair advantage, right? Their shoe was so light, it created an unfair advantage. That all reinforces their ethos and the persona of who they are. And so that promise has to be weaved into the very fabric of what you're doing, from how you develop your product to how you unbox it, how you navigate the website, how you walk into the store. It all has to be in really high integrity. And because they do that so well, they're able to command top dollar, right? I love to show this slide because even if, let's just say, let's just say Walmart spends $5 to produce their shoe, which I know is not true, but let's just say they do. And let's say Nike spends $20. They spend 4 times as much because they have better R&D, they use better products, they hand stitch, they don't use cheap glue, right? We're still looking at a huge difference in markup per unit sold. And for a lot of us, who aren't the Walmarts of the world, we need that. We need that value, right? We need to compete on that value. How am I doing on time, Taylor?
Good. I would say if you want to take just a couple more minutes and then jump into Q&A, that would be great.
Okay, cool. I'll do one more slide and then I'm going to hit the escape fail. I'll save the rest for later. So we talked about the visual branding. So now how do we create that product? How do we create those experiences, right? The intangibles, once we get past the advertising and the looks and all that. So that's my last slide that I'm going to end with here. So this is how we do it whenever we do strategy sessions, within our agency. And we first take a look at the challenges. So where are we losing? Where are we not converting? Where are the gaps? What is it where we look for our brand promise and where are we not delivering on that? Where are we coming up short? And so we might find things, I just threw some examples on there, like maybe our software demo isn't converting on our website. Maybe we have a really high churn rate on a subscription-based model that we have. Maybe we've got a really low CLV limiting our marketing budget. So CLV being a lifetime value of a customer. So how much do they spend with you throughout the time that they're your customer? So if one of those were the case, I'm just taking the first one as an example, then what areas do I need to focus on to make improvements for that? Well, we need to focus on new customers, getting that brand awareness, maybe our website experience, maybe our demo itself, like the video itself, maybe that needs to be relooked at. So we pulled together some ideas of, you know, where we think we should look to find answers. Now we look at outcomes. So what would success look like? And that's the critical piece, because sometimes, especially as we kind of lean into or enter a leaner period for business, we have to make sure that the more money that we spend is categorized as investment and not expense, right? So we need to make sure that the efforts that we're making to improve things are going to give us an ROI. They're going to give us what we need to move forward. And so it's really important to be specific about what goal you're trying to hit. So we need, what success would look like for this demo is if we increase our conversion rate by 10% in the next 6 months. Or if you're on number 2, maybe you reduce your churn rate by 5%. Maybe you up your CLV by 15% in the next 15 months. That would be nice, right? In the next 12 months. So that right there defines the outcomes. After you define the outcomes, you want to double check these answers for relevance. I always give this example as if, you know, you're doing those math formulas and you get the answer and then you plug the answer back into the beginning and check your work. So that's what this is, right? So we go into the relevance. So sometimes we set goals and outcomes just because I want to grow 5%, just because I want to grow 10%, right? But what we want to do is we always want to make a statement and check that the outcome matters. What does it mean? What would you achieve if you could do that? And that will help you kind of edit all the goals and things you want to do into the things that are going to move the needle the most for you in your business and your brand equity, right? So the ones that went out in this game is the best. Then once you get through your outcomes, then you want to go into, okay, well, if these are the outcomes I want, then what activities are going to get me there? And so what things need to be done to solve the problem? And so maybe it's hiring an agency to rework your storyboard for your demo video. Maybe it's creating a digital funnel that goes along with the video to help give them something before and after so we don't lose them, they don't drop off. Maybe it's running analytics on viewing habits. Where are they jumping off? Are they signing off for 20 seconds? What part gets clunky for them? Maybe we add in something like a free trial at the end of the video to see if we can get them to bite that way. So what kinds of activities can we do to try and fix this problem? But here's the all-important last check, is your brand principles. Do these solutions align with your brand principles? Is what parts of your brand identity does this represent? So I borrowed one from a different brand, but say your brand principles are simple solutions for small business. So easy a caveman can do it. So when you're looking at your activities, what I'm trying to find are activities that are going to be in integrity with my brand principles. So I'm looking at my video from a lens of, how do I simplify this video? How do I make it more consumable? How do I make it easier for them to buy? How do I explain it and take it more basic? When you're developing products, right? Maybe you have an all-inclusive app and it's got too many features. And so if simplicity is your game, maybe you have to rework how you roll out features. Maybe you work on an onboarding sequence and a nurture sequence. So always when you look at the activities, you want to check them by your principles to make sure that they're helping to reinforce that story so that you get that same Nike effect, so that you get that same, you know, it's not just a value add, it's a value add that works exponentially because it lines up with my brand promise. It's in alignment with my brand, which means I'm going to get a lot more bang for my buck. Okay. And I'm going to leave the rest of the slides for later.
Awesome. Thanks, Zahra. I think we can open up to questions right now. If people have any questions, you can either throw them in the chat or unmute yourself. Zahra, do you have a kind of a template of how you would suggest people create their brand promise if they haven't done it already?
Yeah, so basically, whenever you're looking at your brand promise, the thing that you really want to consider, and the first exercise we always do is a visioning exercise. because you really want to start with the foundation of your why. And I know for a lot of us, especially me, I'm a bio major, it's very woo, but it's absolutely essential. It is the core of what you do. And the thing that people sometimes get a little tripped up with when they're establishing their why is not why it matters to you, but why it matters to everyone. So we call this the shared unshakable belief. And so if you come up with a why, we always give it the stress test. So we give it the but why test. So if I say, so I had a physical trainer, let's just say, and, well, I give personal training, but why? Because being fit makes your life better. But why? Right? So it's not just about what you believe, but it's an agreement between you, your customers, and your team. It's a vision that everybody can get behind. And so in order to do that, you have to dig deeper than what you think. And so every time you say, this is my why, give it the but why test, because you can't just say what you believe. You also have to, it's not just about what you believe, but it's also about what it means to believe that. So you want to stay away from using very kitschy words like integrity, better, elite, supreme, right? Because I guarantee you, if I were to ask every person here to type in their definition of integrity in the comments, we would get, I don't know how many people are here, but like 20, 30 different, slightly different answers as to what integrity is. And so that's why it's so important, to go deep when you're building your why and building your vision statement. It shouldn't be a one-liner. It should be a 3-pager. You have your one-liner for everybody to see, but as an organization, you want to build that out because you need to explain what it means. A lot of times, just like, has anybody ever had a experience with an employee and you think, oh my God, why would you do this, right? This employee has no common sense, right? We say that all the time, but it's not about common sense sometimes, it's about a common understanding. And so for your employee, they're going by a series of tasks that they are getting graded on, that if they perform the script, they keep their job. If they don't have a job. And so it disempowers them from making decisions that serve your brand. But if you can define for them, not just what you believe, but interpret for them what it means to believe it, now you've got a team around you that are delivering that experience. So when they have to go out script, they can do it and do it right, and so that's taking time with it, not being too short with it.
Awesome. That's helpful. Any other questions from the group? We're at quarter to the top of the hour now, but want to make sure that we jump into some questions. If anybody has them, you can unmute yourself right now.
I have one real quick. I was curious about combining photographs that help brand with the actual logo and a few words, because I actually met Zahra in the breakout, and I'm with Everest Consultants, and so Everest, like the mountain, is often our brand, and we've got pictures and things like that sometimes we mix with the logo. And do you think that's good to be doing consistently, or should that just be done from time to time for an attention getter?
Well, if it's part of your brand, then you're going to want to have something that is your IP, like your own original. You don't want to be using stock photos for that. But you can have that as part of, you can choose to do it either way as part of the brand, and that becomes a brand staple. I would imagine, though, that if you're going to use the mountain as kind of like your mascot, for lack of a better term, right, part of your symbology, then what you want to do is have a designer, a visual designer, go out and create mountain imagery in different formats. So having some photography, having some illustrations, some icons, so that you can re-represent that theme throughout your brand to show that consistency there. Or you could just simply use it in a series of campaigns, in an ad campaign that you're running, the cows for Chick-fil-A, right? Like it's part of their brand, but it's specifically for billboard ads and commercial. They don't use it everywhere, right? It's just in certain places that they do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Awesome. If people want to reach out to you, Zara, what is the best way to connect with you? They've got additional questions.
Yeah, so you can reach out, and I can type it in the chat. You can reach out to support@brandauthor.com, or you can go to the website. Yeah, or you could find me on Instagram as well. And we do a lot of trainings and a lot of sessions. Yeah, and we're happy to help anyway, just a discovery call, or just kind of talk to you a little bit about your brand and where you're at.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for your time and sharing, Zara. Will you be able to, or have you already shared the presentation with Hannah? Would we be able to share that with
Yeah.
this group?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. If you don't mind sending that to Hannah, she'll send it out to all the attendees so that we can review it again. But really appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for coming, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks all. Thanks, Zara.
Bye guys, nice to meet you. Thanks so much.
See ya.
Thank you.